Hello everyone, as with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today wherever you are in this great world. We're gonna talk about XRP. And I gotta start with this from Crypto Sensei. XRP sentiment is at a 2-year high. Why hasn't the price moved? Buyers are active, but sellers are exiting at break even. Resistance is holding despite stronger demand. Market is absorbing supply, not pushing higher. Sentiment is rising, but price stays stuck until selling pressure clears and demand takes control. The question here is, who runs out first, buyers or sellers? I think what's happening is this. You have a lot of XRP leaving the exchanges now. People are taking it to cold storage. But at the same time, you have a lot of people selling off their XRP at the same time. And buyers are finally starting to show up. That's why we're getting a little bit of gradual upward movement here and there for XRP. But everybody is saying retail is now back, and I'm not buying it. I think retail will come back once we have confirmation of a breakout. Until then, they will sit on the sidelines. Reports coming out saying the Las Vegas 2026 Bitcoin conference was a total flop. And I think the reason for that is this. People are fed up with Bitcoin. Retail, they can't make money in Bitcoin anymore. What are they hoping to get on, say, a $3,000 or $4,000 investment? Maybe you 2x your money. There's better opportunities out there. XRP, people are predicting 10, 20, 30, 40x from where it sits right now. Bitcoin, it's no longer for retail, in my opinion. And even the institutions, they're starting to look past it as well. But now, because their conference was a flop, a lot of these Bitcoin maxis are now spreading hate for XRP. Take a listen to this moron here.
Interestingly, the number one thing that is muted is crypto. So not Bitcoin broadly, but crypto generally. I think that people are tired of the XRP nonsense and the crypto scam nonsense. But they're probably somewhat tired of Bitcoin talk too. But that inverse sentiment is.
They just hate XRP. You know what it is? They see a cryptocurrency that's coming for the #1 spot, and they can't ignore it. Take a listen to this one here. This guy believes that there's a marketing team behind XRP. Take a listen.
What are your thoughts on this XRP thing? Do you think that there's any viability to what they're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting topic because my mother-in-law is she made an investment in XRP a long time ago, and that's kind of her nest egg. And almost every day I hear her updating me the news on XRP and stuff like that. And it goes to show you the lack of understanding between Ripple, the company, and XRP, the token. And I think XRP will do exceptionally well because they have amazing marketing. It's kind of the American #1 altcoin kind of thing. And I think it'll do really, 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 really well in liquidity seasons. But I just don't see the real utility yet of XRP. I mean, I know that.
Take notice, he said he doesn't see the utility for it yet. And that's what we're waiting for also as XRP holders. But at least he knows that it's going to do exceptionally well also. But then he goes on to push the Bitcoin nonsense. And the only cryptocurrency that has an extreme marketing team, it's Bitcoin. Michael Saylor, all over the mainstream media news, consistently. Jack Mallers, mainstream media news. Tom Lee's out there pushing both Bitcoin and Ethereum for the most part. You don't see Brad Garlinghouse on the mainstream media news all that often. And usually when he's on there, it's because something big is happening or it's shifting towards Ripple and XRP. But I believe that the mainstream media news is not going to be able to ignore XRP for much longer. Most people don't know this, but back in 2013, Ripple co-founder Chris Larsen demonstrated sending Bitcoin instantly using Ripple's network. And the reason I want to show you this clip again is because a lot of people said that they never sent Bitcoin over the XRP ledger. Well, take a listen to this right here.
Well, let me show you in my wallet. I've got some other currencies. I want to send another one. Notice that I've also got Bitcoin in my Ripple wallet. Again, Ripple is multi-currency, and it's interoperable to Bitcoin. So you can use your Ripple wallet, you can use the Ripple network to also send Bitcoins. Let me show you how that works real briefly. So again, I'll send my friend, this time a payment in Bitcoin. I'll choose a small amount because Bitcoins are expensive. And it's going to calculate paths. And as you can see, I've got a number of currencies I can send. I'm going to go ahead and send Bitcoin. My friend will receive Bitcoin. Confirm that transaction. System's going through a process of consensus. Once again, reached consensus. So what I just did basically is I sent Bitcoin off the Bitcoin blockchain. So instead of waiting 10 minutes that you must in the Bitcoin paradigm, I sent Bitcoins instantly.
Instantly over the XRP ledger for a fraction of a penny. And that's why I keep telling you, this is Bitcoin's future, is to run across other networks. It's not going to be relevant in the future. It's going to become less and less relevant over time as technology continues to push forward. And they're also now pushing this whole quantum computer Bitcoin safe narrative. Evidence suggests post-quantum cryptography era will arrive before the 2029 Google predictions. Bitcoin is safe, but just about everything else is not. So I don't know where they came up with this, but we already know the XRP ledger is going to be ready. All these other networks are going to be ready. Bitcoin, however, is not quantum safe. They're talking about forking Bitcoin at some point this coming August. And they're all trying to steal Satoshi's Bitcoin at the same time. I mean, if you're an OG Bitcoin holder and the reason you bought your Bitcoin was because of the original narratives like anti-bank, anti-government, and, freedom and all that, there's no way you are going to continue holding your Bitcoin into the future after seeing the direction that they're taking it in right now. And that's why I believe a lot of these Bitcoin OGs, they've been selling off over the last couple of months. And this goes as far back as last year. They were selling then as well. And I talked about the private ledger just the other day, and people said, you're totally wrong. There's no such thing as the private ledger. Well, take a listen to this clip of David Schwartz right here.
There was another question that came up, and I don't know if this makes sense, but the question is, will the value of XRP be the same in the private ledgers as it is on the public?
Yes. The value proposition of XRP is that it has these liquidity pools. If it doesn't make sense to isolate something, like there's no place where gold is worth twice as much as it is now, because if there was, people would just bring gold there and they would they would buy gold somewhere else and they would sell it there. Unless the only way that you can have the value be very different in two places is if there's a lot of friction. And if there's friction, someone will make a business of removing that friction. So I don't see any realistic scenario where XRP has significantly different value unless something's wrong. So like a good example of a case, there was a time where the value of XRP they called it the kimchi premium, right? Where the value of XRP in some Asian countries was very high, but that was because there were capital controls, right? That was because things were bad. I think that's a sign that something is not going well. The value proposition of XRP is that you can take it to all of the places, right? If I sell you some gold and you say, hey, this gold can only be used in jewelry, you're like, well, that kind of sucks. I don't want that gold, right? The value proposition of gold is that you have access to the entire value proposition of gold. And so I don't see any scenario in which where it makes sense to snip pieces off, again, unless something is wrong.
So David is telling you there is a private ledger, but the price of XRP, it's not going to be different on the public ledger to the private ledger. Now, the private ledger is the ledger that the banks are testing on right now. And I think when we see those price glitches, it's like getting a look behind the curtain every once in a while. Maybe those are the price points that they're testing XRP at on the private ledger. But even when the banks go live, whatever price that they are using, that's going to be the same price that we're seeing on the public ledger as well. In other words, if they're testing out XRP at $1,000, right, and they all come out of the testing phase and they all agree that the price has to be at $1,000, well, then that's the amount you will get for your XRP. There's not going to be two different prices. But I did want to clear up that there absolutely is a private ledger as well. And that is most likely where the price will eventually be set. But it will be, think about it like this. If there was two different prices for XRP, you could just go and buy it right now on the private ledger, or you could buy it on the exchange, take it to the private ledger, and then sell it for more money. And you could do that all day long. That's why there will never be two prices for XRP. And this comes from Patrick Riley, and he makes a great point here. If you missed yesterday's XRP announcement, this is what I was referring to. Most people still don't get this significance, so allow me to elaborate. During SEC versus Ripple Labs, it surfaced that there were 1,700 NDAs between Ripple and other companies. A lot of people speculated that those NDAs pertained to banks. Yesterday's announcement is not speculation. Ripple publicly confirmed not just 1,700, but 13,000 banks connected through their system where $12.5 trillion flows. Putting that into perspective, there are 4,336 registered banks and savings institutions in the United States. There are also 4,287 credit unions. Many of these institutions are international throughout Western civilization. That means that Ripple is now into almost every Western banking institution. That is where the $12.5 trillion number comes from. But you don't care about that, right? You want to know what it will do for the price of XRP. Let's go apply the Bakes pipeline stock to flow model. If 20 billion XRP moved $12.5 trillion annually, the average price per XRP is $625. That's $589 number, and the chart I've shared many times do not look so far out of reach now, do they? There is hopium, and then there is this. So he's saying that essentially could be what gets us to 589. But everybody is so focused on those 1,700 NDAs. They're like, I wonder who those NDAs are with. There's only one NDA I care about, the NDA between Ripple and BlackRock. I want to know what they're building in the background, because I think that is absolutely massive. Nobody out there is going to convince me otherwise. And the reason I know there's an NDA there is for a couple of reasons. Number one, you now know Larry Fink sits as the chair at the World Economic Forum. World Economic Forum multiple times has cited not just Ripple and XRP, but Stellar and XLM as well. So they know the plan. The elites, They see BlackRock, they see Ripple. I still believe BlackRock is an elite shell company created all the way back in 1988, but that's besides the point. Then there's Robbie Mitchnick, who used to work at Ripple, who I think was deployed to BlackRock, most likely to build out something big in the background. But what is it? We really don't know yet. But I believe those 13,000 banks are way bigger than the 1,700 NDAs. I'm sure we will all know who those NDAs are with very soon also. Now, take a listen to this. This is Evernorth CEO predicting tokenization will take over the industry in 2 years, and XRP is going to be a leader. Take a listen.
When you look at what lies ahead of crypto in general, specific to XRP, next 2 years, where would you say this market is in terms of, assets under management? You look at growth and also the percentage of portfolio share that we're seeing, because right now it's very low, 1% maybe.
Yeah, I mean, back when the internet started, everyone was talking about, are you on the internet, Paul? Are you on the internet? And right now people are talking about, are you tokenized? In 2 years, I think people are just going to assume it's going to be tokenized. And I do believe that XRP is going to be a leader there. From day one, the DNA of that entire ecosystem has been about financial use cases. And you walk around Vegas today and you see XRP everywhere. And you walk around New York City, the financial capital of the world, and you ask them about, it's Ripple everywhere. And so, I think that we are so early on, Paul, in terms of that tokenization front. But, you look at JP Morgan's, statements, you look at BlackRock, you look at Franklin Templeton. It isn't a matter of we are doing pilots. Yeah. It is we are going in. And we are starting entire divisions around this.
Which I think for a lot of the viewers and a lot of listeners, I've had several people come up to me today and say, listen, we feel finally that this industry is getting its due.
Yes.
And regardless of what happens in Capitol Hill, the SEC is friendly. We're already seeing the CFTC start to make some inroads on new products. The likelihood of this really starting to accelerate, regardless of regulation, I think is becoming a reality. That's equating to investors saying, I'm ready. What do you think in the future, what a future portfolio mix would look like in terms of digital assets? That could be a mix of Evernorth and a handful of other things. Do you think we'll ever see a 10% share of a portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think there's two ways to answer it. I think that more and more people are going to want to hold, crypto directly and get exposure here. And again, companies like Evernorth, we make that super easy. So I think we're going to lower the, barriers to entry. Think about how many steps you need to do, and then you have to worry about, is my crypto going to be stolen or whatever? So I think companies like Evernorth are going to lower that barrier to entry. But Paul, I think what's also interesting is that these early adopters are also just going to hold tokenized equities. They're going to hold tokenized gold, and you got to think about it as even branching beyond the digital assets. Yeah. And I think that is all accretive to to the digital underlying digital asset.
I like it.
And so I'm excited about not only more and more folks coming in. By the way, so few people own digital assets today in America, and we're definitely a leader out there. Sure. It's very different in Korea and Japan. So I think we have a
So what he said there is he said that we're going to capture a decent percentage of tokenization on the XRP ledger. He also said that this is still early on, which we all know. But the second half of this year, that's going to change very fast. And that's why I still believe by the end of 2026, we're going to be looking at a much different XRP. He also mentioned BlackRock as well. And I still believe that what Ripple and BlackRock are building out in the background is something massive around tokenization. Because Larry Fink, he wants to tokenize everything of value. And even the World Economic Forum, they said years ago that the tokenization market is $837 trillion. Now, imagine XRP Ledger capturing just 10% of that. And imagine how rich you're going to be as an XRP holder. But like I always tell you, until it happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.